What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of the MBL Blitz podcast. I am your host, Spencer Murray. Of course, we are currently in week 14 of the MBL season 21, and it has been busy here lately on the MBL network. I've got JY and Doughboy here as guests on this episode, so let's just get straight into it. First up, though, is the No Huddle. The No Huddle starts right now. Drew Brees, is he losing a step? His current touchdown interception ratio is 1 to 2.5. Was signing the vet ultimately the best idea for Jacksonville? Should they have kept Bortles as opposed to bringing in Brees, who was thought to be on the last legs of his career? It's looking kind of rough. There's still some believers in Brees, but I don't see it. I don't see Jacksonville doing anything offensively unless it's through the run game. Matt Stafford, yet again, the front runner for the MVP. Is there any player out there that can dethrone him? Big Ben's kind of lost a step this year. There's no clear elite players. Is Stafford going to stay on the top until his career is over? We're just going to have to find out and see. Yet again, another Baltimore defensive back, their free safety Cowan, is making a big push for the leading tackler in the MBL. Last season or the season before, they had a corner that was the leading solo tackler in the MBL. Apparently, the DB coach in Baltimore is doing his job. That man needs a raise, or the defensive coordinator is doing a great job and putting his players in spots to make plays. This guy's only 5 tackles behind Eric Reed, who is currently the #1 tackler in the MBL. So we're just going to have to keep an eye on that. And last but not least, who is Leland Alston, the leading rusher that blew by Thomas Rawls for the #1 rushing spot? He's in New Orleans, averaging 7 yards a carry, over 1,200 yards. This kid is apparently a stud, and he's come out of nowhere. Where did he come from? No one seems to know. He just kind of seemed to come off the streets and walk on to New Orleans and take the starting spot there. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this kid, see if he breaks an MBL record. I heard he's getting pretty close to Jeremy Hill's previous record. So let's keep an eye on that. And there's definitely more to come there. Here with this next segment, I brought in Doughboy, the owner of the Houston Texans, who had some insight on the power rankings and playoff picture currently this season. How are you, Doe?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
No problem. Always looking for help. As we're going to hit the power rankings here first, as you can see here, Lions at the top, Cowboys sitting at #10. Is there a team here that you think is going to run the table and maybe win out to finish the season?
Yeah, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, 2 times defending Super Bowl champions, they're going to be very strong. I'm not quite sure if they're going to win out, but they had the Bengals on the back end of the season. They beat them last week, and they have them again on week 16. And I think they're going to end up winning the division. And Bengals are going to drop the wild card after starting off so hot.
I think another surprise team we have here in the top 10, at least as high, are the Washington Redskins. Currently, I believe, in the lead for the NFC East. Do you see them slowing down any at all going into the playoffs?
No, I don't think they're slowing down. The thing about the Redskins is they're really a ball control team. I mean, if you look at them, they lead the second in the league in rushing with 104 yards and second in points allowed, and they just completely break you down. They're not a high-scoring team, but they're definitely going to be a tough team to beat if they play their style of offense and defense. They can make it. They can make it all the way.
All right. Out of these 10 teams, do you see any one of these teams dropping off anytime soon, or is this the solidified top 10 for the rest of the season?
The Rams, I think, they're going to win the division, but the Rams' second half of their strength of schedule is much harder. I don't think they're going to go in as strong as people might have thought when they started off 7-0. Their division is a little weaker with the Cardinals and Seattle struggling to make any ground. And the 49ers, again, they're 2-10 right now, I think, and they're just going to be at the bottom looking at the top 5 pick. But Goff, I don't put any faith in Goff to do anything in the playoffs. I think the Rams are going to be a quick team to leave.
I could agree with you there. Last little snippet, AFC West, as you can see, the Chargers on top. Raiders currently on a win streak. Chiefs have dropped out after a great start this season. Who do you think takes it, Chargers or Raiders?
Oh, the Chargers are gonna win that division hands down. They're the only consistent team. The Chiefs and the Raiders both, they have the weapons. I mean, there's no disputing they've built good, solid rosters. But it's more of the coaching decision and playmaking. Chargers are a late team. They always seem to get stronger at the end of the season. They're a December team, and that's what you want to be in the NBL. You got to bring it at the end of the season if you want to get into the playoffs. And last year they made it all the way to the AFC Championship game. The quarterback is getting better. He's had another year under his belt, and they're going to be tough to beat. I actually think that they're going to do very well. Another team to look out for, I think the Bills. They're always kind of not really talked about, but they've built a really strong roster. They're running the AFC East. And I think that the Bills are another team that you're going to definitely have to think about heading into the playoffs.
Now, another team that we didn't see on this list that was previously the Packers. You see the Bears overtook them. Lions, of course, at the top of the NFC North. Do the Packers have any chance of making it into the top 10 and possibly a playoff spot?
No.
Fair enough. All right. That handles the power rankings. Let's go ahead and move on to this next graphic we have here of the playoff picture. As you can see, we have the Bengals at the number 1 of the AFC and Lions at number 1 in the NFC. Are any of these teams your pick for a Super Bowl champion?
Yeah, I have a Super Bowl champion figured out. I'm pretty sure, and I think I'm going to lock it in. Just to kind of get to how I got there, I have 2 major stats that I look at for when I'm looking at playoff teams, and that's turnover difference and quarterback QBR. So the number 1 team in turnover difference is the Lions at plus 19. The best quarterback QBR is Matthew Stafford at 141.9. So being 1 in both those categories, I think this is the year the Detroit Lions win the Super Bowl. And I also think this might be the last year that Matthew Stafford plays on the Lions. So I think he's going to go out with a ring, and we'll see from there who's going to be starting quarterback for the Lions next season.
Lions, no doubt, a powerhouse in the NFC every year. And on the AFC, as a surprise, you did mention the Bengals at number 1 and the Steelers on a hot streak. So you believe that the Bengals will fall off and the Steelers will take their spot back at the top of the AFC?
I believe the Steelers will be the seed in the AFC over the Bengals. But the Bengals are one of those, when they're playing hot, they're really hard to beat, and when Andy Dalton is messing up, they're really easy to beat. So it's kind of the tale of two sides. You don't know who you're going to get, Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde from Andy Dalton. If he goes in the playoffs and plays like he was at the beginning of the season, they can run the gambit. They're plus 9 in turnover difference. Their defensive line with Connor Barwin is really impressive this year. They have Atkins, they have Dunlap. So I really like to see how they play, but you can't put money on the Bengals with how hot and cold they get.
All right, as we see some teams down in the hunt, of course Kansas City dropped off that list. Next man up would be the Patriots, Jets, and whoever else you have next on your list. But I'm looking over on the NFC side, and I see the Dallas Cowboys at the hunt. I personally believe they could get back in it. What are your opinions on that?
Oh, absolutely, and they're another one of those teams. The Redskins and Cowboys still play each other both games. 2 games left. Let me check. I think it's coming up. Yeah, it's really incredible. The whole division is going to come down to week 15 and week 17. So it's still up in the air. The Cowboys can win the division and beat the Redskins twice. So there's anything tells. And Cowboys, unfortunately, they haven't been able to get the Super Bowl, but we all know 4 times they went there, maybe 5 now. You can never count out the Cowboys.
All right, now off topic. Your pick for MVP this year, would you say it'd be Matt Stafford?
Yeah, I think this is the season the Lions. I don't think they're going to lose again. And I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, this team, everything is clicking, and they have 2 stud wide receivers they picked up as rookies. They're going to be dangerous for years to come. I think Matthew Stafford is going to win the MVP. The question is, can they re-sign him? We just saw some rumors that he might have to go franchise tag because with his age, he wants a longer contract than the ownership's willing to give. So this might be the make it or break it season. But I definitely think Matthew Stafford is having an incredible season. He's going to be tough to dethrone.
All right, so we have it here. Doughboy's recap. He has the Lions as the next MBL champions. Thank you for your time, Doughboy. Sure appreciate the work there.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Is this your first time watching MBL content? Well, if so, make sure to hit that subscribe button right below this video. Also, if you have a Twitter, follow us at Bomber League and at MBL Network. You will not be disappointed from the daily content that is pouring out of this channel. Make sure to stay tuned. Alright, in this next segment, we're going to look at the first ever MBL All-Rookie Team put together by JY himself, the stats and info guru. Thanks for coming on, JY.
Yeah, no problem. This was kind of a labor of love here over the last couple days / weeks.
That's great. First off, how did you go about putting this team together from beginning to end?
Well, I mean, the process, each position had their own little ratio of where I would look at plays, stats, negative stats, kind of just going through everything. Like I said, it was a labor. I looked over stats over the last 3 advances, so that was like over a week and a half here of actual MBL, so plenty of stats to look over.
All right, and in those days of labor, are there any of these rookies that stick out to you as, you know, near elite status or possibly going to be great in the future?
Well, obviously the wide receiver out of Tennessee, Gabe Williamson, is leading the league in almost every wide receiver category. The kid's going to be a stud. He's going to be a superstar forever. And the Baltimore Ravens have 2 rookies that made the list on defense.
Yeah, I did notice that the last couple of years, the Ravens have drafted some great DBs. Is it just luck on their part, or is it maybe actually great coaching there?
It's great coaching. It's great scouting. I mean, the guy knows what he needs. He went after it. He found some gems. He's got some first-round talent. He's going to be good for a little while up there in Baltimore.
Now I know during the draft there's a big steal out of Washington, Lindsey Kaiser. How does he line up in the linebacker category?
He's one of the top ones, but unfortunately on the Washington Redskins, he's like the 3rd best one, because last year they went and drafted a couple really good stud linebackers. So Washington's going to have a really good, solid middle of their defense.
All right, now moving on to more of the bottom of the totem pole here. Are there any of these guys that are kind of just on the edge of not really contributing to their team?
Players like Malik Lovelock out of Pittsburgh, he kind of just barely made the list with just enough stats to kind of be noticed. On offense, there was, let me pull my sheet. Tight ends out of Denver, Traylon Goodson, Griffin Smallwood. Neither one of them are having really good stats, but they made the list because the tight end class was a little weak.
Now going back to offense, a lot of word around the league is that Kendall Bryan, the quarterback for Cleveland, is struggling, yet he's at the top of your list. How does that work out there?
Even with all of his interceptions that he's throwing, I mean, he's putting up good yards. He's got good completion percentage. He's just overall, he's got better stats than some of the other rookies. I mean, it's not contributing to wins or anything, but players like Woodson from the Jets is just not quite at his status yet.
Now, I know just looking at stats recently, the Lions have 2 great rookie wide receivers. And do you think without the addition of Williamson this year that those 2 rookies would be at the top of your list?
Easily. And it's not that hard when you have a player like Matthew Stafford throwing you the football. But, you know, Detroit's always drafted wide receivers. They've hit on some, they've missed on some, but over the last couple of years, they've really hit on these 2 guys. All
right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
There might be some controversy surrounding my choices for middle linebacker. EJ Fair statistically is having a better overall season. He is contributing on tackles. He's getting some big plays. Players like Jamal Blades, who is leading the league in sacks for rookies, but isn't making the, you know, down first and second down plays.
So you've already mentioned your pretty much guaranteed pick for the offensive player of the year. Who do you think is going to be the big defensive player of the year out of these guys?
It's going to be neck and neck between Antares Cowan and then Dawson Wiley from Tampa Bay. Those 2 are really contributing. Wiley isn't getting on the stat sheets with interceptions or pass deflections, but he is leading his team in tackles. And Antares Cowan, I mean, like I said, Baltimore's D-backs, you can't throw deep.
looking at these guys, there's a lot of names, but how many teams were actually represented here on this list?
So there were 25 of the 32 teams represented. There were 7 teams with 1 player, 14 teams with 2, and only 4 teams with 3. Some of the key teams that didn't make the list are teams like Dallas Cowboys, Oakland Raiders, Cincinnati Bengals, and the Atlanta Falcons.
So it's pretty much teams that have already set their depth chart, and they were pretty much just drafting for extra depth.
Right, and as we know, a team like Cincinnati, who's going to have a whole lot of picks coming up in next year's draft, this list is totally going to look different. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of teams with young talent not really having a lot of rookie production.
All right, that'll wrap that up here. I appreciate you coming on, and I look forward to bringing you on again next time.
All right, thanks for having me.
Now, I know this show wasn't, packed full of news and stuff like I usually throw in, but I liked the direction that we took. We got a couple guys from the league to come and contribute to another show. JY and Doughboy, thank you again. It was great working with you, and look forward to having you on later on. But we've got some great things cooking up here at MBL Network. Like I mentioned on the MBL live pregame show on the previous game, if you watched it just yesterday or the day before, I mentioned that Gub and Doughboy themselves will be doing a full first round mock draft and coming on to the Blitz podcast on the next episode and debate their respective picks, why they chose this man at this position or why they thought this team needed this position, and kind of go back and forth. I'll be a moderator and have questions for them, and I think it's going to be fun. Also, we're shooting for some great content coming up here for the draft. A lot of things in the works. We've got Sonny Weaver's idea for the 3 and out, around the horn type debate show. That's going to be great to get some owners to come on and debate and answer questions, and just a lot of big steps being made here in the MBL and the network side. So if you're out there, like Bomber mentioned before, team selection's coming up, 6 months, a few months out until the next Madden, but if you're interested in getting the team that you want, or if you're just interested in doing something outside of just playing your game, let somebody know. There's plenty of shows, there's plenty of outlets for you to do something in order to help the league run smoothly, and it's definitely the best thing to do, because just playing a game is fun, but being able to create content and add more depth to a league that you're in is great. And I've enjoyed doing every single one of these episodes, and I really recommend, if you just have some extra time, write a blog or throw out some team tweets that look better than just the usual, we won the game such and such. Just take a step up, take a step above and beyond what you're used to, and keep climbing from there. Just evolve your content, and it'll pay off in the long run. I didn't expect to be that high in team selection coming up, and I'm incredibly humbled how high I am. But you could be there too. Bomber and everybody else, Bomber and Lip do a lot already, and it would be great if everyone could come together and just be great. So think about that. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode, and get a big episode coming up.